My cheated wife's affair exposed at work, office collapse, his wife shocked, I got revenge. I am a 37-year-old man who has been married to Judy, a 32-year-old woman, for 2.5 years. It's tough to pinpoint a single moment that defines everything that has happened so far, but I believe things took a turn for the worse after that annoying phone call. I was in the living room watching football highlights I missed from the previous day when my wife's phone began to ring. Annoyed by the ringing phone disrupting the game commentary, I brought it to her in the kitchen and asked her to handle the call. Then the phone rang again, and she seemed ready to confront the caller. Since both of us worked in the corporate world, Judy had a rule of not letting work intrude on our home life. She thought it was important to separate our professional and personal lives. She maintained her privacy and encouraged me to do the same. She never answered work-related calls on weekends and preferred to handle urgent matters via email. I walked towards the kitchen exit, half expecting her to explode, but it didn't happen. She fell silent, and her expression changed. It wasn't until dinner that she revealed what the phone call was about. "They're transferring us out of state," she said. "Transfer? Why? Where?" I inquired. As soon as those words left my mouth, I realized the situation. I had previously mentioned the company's expansion. Apparently, the board wanted to relocate employees to oversee the branch's development, she explained. I understood how transfers worked, but they typically didn't transfer married individuals without their consent. Judy hadn't requested the transfer. I suggested she decline it, but she explained that it came with a promotion, the one she had been working towards her entire career. It was becoming clear what the situation was. Judy was an ambitious woman, and I admired that about her. For the past year, she had put in a lot of effort to earn that promotion. She volunteered, worked extra hours, and made sure her team of 7 functioned smoothly. Now it was about to pay off, though not in the way we expected. Her salary would double, with numerous perks and benefits, but it was never just about the money for her. She was determined to climb the corporate ladder. "What do you think I should do?" she asked. All I could say was, "It's not your fault, but it puts me in a difficult situation." I had 2 clear options. I could advise her to turn down the transfer, sacrificing the promotion. Or I could be supportive and give her my blessing to pursue the opportunity she had worked so hard for. In my mind, I considered that long-distance marriages could work. I hadn't seen many examples, but they must exist, right? I was hopeful, but not wanting to hold her back, I told her, "I'll support your decision, whichever way you choose. We can make it work." Now I deeply regret those words. She was thrilled, and in that moment, I believed I had made the right choice. I convinced myself that people maintained their marriages during long business trips, spending months away from their families and still keeping the spark alive. Looking back, she didn't give me much room to refuse. If I had given my honest opinion and asked her not to take the job, she would have considered it, but it would have come at a cost, potentially leading to the collapse of our marriage. I didn't want that. I also disliked the idea of her being so far away, but if our marriage was on the line, the lesser evil was letting her go. It seemed like the only logical choice. Faced with a similar situation again, I'm not sure I would choose differently. She spent the evening thanking me for being understanding, but I couldn't shake the irritation I felt. I realized that my wife had manipulated me into making a decision in her favor. She had baited me. I was certain. However, she seemed genuinely excited. After all the travel arrangements were made, we had a long discussion about how to make the marriage work. Naturally, we decided to call each other every day to stay involved in our daily lives. The thought of infidelity never crossed my mind because I believed Judy was too focused on her goals to consider it. Her company agreed to give her 5 days off each month. "It'll work," she assured me just before boarding the plane. Little did I know, my marriage had ended at that moment. All long-distance relationships start the same way, with constant calls. I even got her a Bluetooth earpiece so we could talk while she worked. For the first 2 months, it seemed to be working. We were on the phone more, and I learned more about her life than I did when we lived together. Suddenly, it felt like I had made the right choice by prioritizing her ambition over my needs. I thought we were in a good place, at least until 2 months ago. Judy phoned one morning to cancel her trip back to Michigan. Her company's performance for the last 3 months was not good, and she needed to find more skilled people for administrative roles to make her job easier. I was fine with it, as I was on the cusp of sealing a major deal that would give me more flexibility in my work. The payout for closing the deal was worth millions, and it would allow me to spend more time with my wife. Waiting for 5 days to surprise her seemed insignificant compared to the time I could have with her. I kept the deal secret to give her a pleasant surprise, so I needed to stay focused and avoid distractions. We didn't call each other during this time, which was the longest we had gone without talking on the phone. We exchanged texts on WhatsApp, but we were both too busy for meaningful conversations. I'm sharing this story because a mutual friend recently accused me of being cold and manipulative after hearing what happened. In my view, I'm neither of those things. If anything, the big deal eventually went through and everything was about to be finalized. This deal was a game changer and would secure my family's financial future. It was with the first client I'd ever closed, making me part of the top 10% wealthiest Americans. That night, while waiting for confirmation, I fought the temptation to call her. I wanted to share the past week's events and how our lives were going to change. Instead, I planned a surprise vacation for us, including tickets, hotel, food, and sightseeing. While scrolling through WhatsApp, I saw her story with a photo of her hugging a man named Henry. He had dark hair, blue eyes, and seemed to be in his mid-30s. He was the first person she hired when she started her job, and he knew the business well. Below the picture, she captioned it as, "Dark times reveal angels." I should have suspected something was amiss and delayed telling her about the deal. I decided to fly to California to see her, and that's when I found out about her affair with Henry. I called her Michigan office to find out her location for a surprise visit, and fortunately, a mutual friend who worked as the receptionist helped keep my arrival a secret. During the flight, I imagined how Judy would react to the news of the deal. I went straight to her branch from the airport, hoping to take her out to dinner to share the news. However, I was told she hadn't shown up for work that day, so I took an Uber to the address I was given, wondering why the receptionist at her branch seemed surprised to learn that Judy was married. I didn't press for details since Judy liked to keep her personal life private. After climbing 4 flights of stairs, I stood at her apartment door with a bouquet of flowers hidden behind my back. Just as I was about to knock, I heard her moan and someone saying, "Keep going." My heart sank. It only took 5.5 months for her to cheat on me. I was consumed by anger, which threatened to overwhelm my rationality, but I made an effort to stay quiet. I left her apartment and drove back to her office to ask the receptionist not to mention my visit, and I gave her a $100 tip. I also stayed in a nearby hotel to keep an eye on her. During the week that followed, I trailed her in a rental car, and she didn't suspect a thing. She followed a pattern between work, yoga, and her apartment, making it easy for me to monitor her movements. This is how I realized she spent a lot of time with Henry, and it wasn't difficult to figure out he was the one she was having an affair with. I tried calling and messaging her during this time, but she used work as an excuse and pleaded for space to sort out her professional life. It was at that moment I decided not to let her manipulate me any longer. I prepared divorce papers and waited for her to return home with Henry. It seemed like they spent most of their time in bed because as soon as I arrived at her door, all I could hear were moans and grunts. I unlocked the door quietly and entered her bedroom, recording with my phone. It was gross to watch, but I recorded a full minute of their night out before revealing myself. At that moment, as she scrambled for clothes, I felt empowered, though it was a sad and painful experience. Her distress when I told her I'd share the video with her colleagues and family, unless she signed divorce papers, justified my actions. She begged for forgiveness, claiming she'd resign and seek therapy, but I was repulsed by her. Who wouldn't be? Every time I saw her, I couldn't shake the image of her with Henry, which made me want to vomit. Her requests were impossible, and I wouldn't entertain them. She said she'd resigned when she dropped off signed divorce papers, but I still sent the video to her parents to show them the child they raised. Regarding some comments, it seemed like she was already out of the relationship when she took the job. She likely wanted this for a while, and may have been cheating on you for some time. She manipulated you into accepting the job, leaving you no real choice. Major, life-changing decisions like that can profoundly affect a family. Now it's been 5 months since the divorce, and I wanted to update you. A while back, my wife moved to another state to oversee her company's new branch and started an affair with a CO worker, which I discovered during a surprise visit. After the divorce, I took some time to regroup and even went on a week-long vacation to the Dominican Republic, a great place, by the way. One evening, I received a Reddit notification about my initial post. When I wrote it, I was mostly venting my anger, frustration, and disgust. Surprisingly, it gained a lot of attention. While reading the comments, one stood out, written by someone who had gone through a similar situation a few years ago. He mentioned feeling miserable for not getting sufficient revenge to satisfy his spirit. It may sound strange and unpopular, as many people seemed content with me simply exposing her infidelity to her parents and getting her fired without going further. It was somewhat satisfying to witness her relationship with her parents fall apart due to that video, but aside from that, it seemed like I hadn't accomplished much. The last I heard, she was staying in a motel and working at a nightclub, which oddly suited her as a cheater. About 3 weeks after I returned from my trip to the Dominican Republic, she showed up at my door begging for my forgiveness and to take her back. It was quite entertaining watching her with puffy, bloodshot eyes from either crying or dealing with some issues. Regardless of the situation, it didn't concern me much. She was already an emotional wreck. My focus shifted to the guy she cheated on me with, Henry. I let her in, and she seemed to think I was reconsidering the divorce because she immediately started explaining her actions, claiming she never thought I'd actually go through with it. She even said she'd lost her parents' respect, and I had already punished her enough. I decided to test her by asking a question I knew she'd fail, but I wanted to be sure she didn't disappoint. When I asked her how many times it happened, she answered 1, swearing it was the truth. It was hard to believe anything she said after that. My dad used to say, it's nearly impossible to look someone in the eye and lie to them, but she proved him wrong. I didn't know exactly how many times they had been together, but I had a rough idea of when it started, and it certainly wasn't a one-time thing. I was skeptical, but if I hadn't followed her around for the first 2 weeks after arriving in Michigan and heard her moaning in her room the day I got there, I might have fallen for her lies. Her desire for a private life no longer mattered. As for Henry, I had discovered he was a married man, which infuriated me. I knew I had a chance to exact revenge on him too. I didn't need a mirror to know my acting skills were far from perfect, but she fell for it. Thinking I was considering reconciliation, I told her to give me time to think, then immediately sent the video to everyone who knew her, including her friend at the office. My first move was booking a ticket to Michigan to expose Henry's married life, using information from Judy. I rented an apartment near his place, keeping an eye on him and waiting to release the videos of his affairs with my ex-wife. Meanwhile, I watched his wife, Amy. She was stunning, with blonde hair, gray eyes, and a captivating smile. My initial plan was to seduce her and gloat to her husband, but my feelings took an unexpected turn. Amy was a kind and genuine person, and we developed a close friendship. I even started seeing less of Henry for a while. I learned that Henry had lost his job and was desperately job hunting to avoid suspicion from Amy. During our conversations, Amy also shared her marital problems, with her husband barely paying attention to her until recently. Unbeknownst to her, this information gave me the ammunition I needed. I revealed the truth to Amy and showed her the video which haunted my dreams. She was easily convinced, and we planned how she would confront Henry. Although I wasn't there to witness it, I made sure he knew I was behind his troubles. The last I heard, he was being deported. Now I can say I feel satisfied. Letters were sent to various people, including family, friends, homemakers, professionals, factory workers, doctors, lawyers, educators, priests, preachers, and even Facebook friends. The common thread among them was their connection to Amy Taylor or Josh Long. The message you're about to read is from Ben Taylor, who's Amy's husband, as well as your daughter, sister, friend, and co-worker. I realize that most of you may not know me, and I appreciate your time. I have some information about my beloved wife and her friend, information that some of you might already be aware of or suspect. I've made the choice to eliminate all uncertainty and share what I know. I'm aware that many of you may not like it, some might even hate it, or even me. However, I'm prepared to face the consequences. Please take a look at the first attachment. There's a picture of Amy and Josh sharing a passionate kiss on the screen. The caption says, "Foreplay." This photo was taken 3 months ago at her company picnic. They believed they were discreet, but my friend, who was searching for his children, witnessed it. He took some pictures and gave them to me, thinking I might need them. That's what a good friend does. I must admit that I became a typical insecure husband after that. I needed to find out everything, even if it hurt me, and it did. It hurt our commitments to each other and to God in front of friends and family. They were broken due to lust. I hope it wasn't love. I keep tormenting myself with the question, why? Could it be because I left her alone for extended periods while the Navy SEALs and I were involved in covert CIA operations? No, wait, I never served in the military, and the only SEALs I know are the ones sunbathing in the harbor. Could it be because I left her alone for work? That can't be. I don't go on business trips, and I hardly ever work overtime. I typically get home no later than 5:30 every evening. Maybe it's because I abandoned all my hobbies, left her and the kids to themselves, and had fun on my own, missing birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries? No, that's not the case. My only hobby is making her happy. She seemed to enjoy little surprise gifts and weekend getaways, and she had to keep an eye on me to ensure I didn't go overboard on those occasions. Fortunately, we didn't have a chance to have kids. I wasn't tough on her mentally or physically. I didn't neglect her, and I always made sure she knew I loved her. I spent as much time with her as possible. It helped that she had a job, otherwise she wouldn't have had time to be with Josh. The fact that he was her boss made their secret meetings convenient during the day. I was shocked when I obtained concrete evidence. It turned out to be a bit costly, possibly even illegal, but I didn't intend to use it in court. I decided to take the matter to the court of public opinion. It's evidence of their affair. Of course, the following attachments are explicit, so please don't open them if you think they might offend you. The next 2 images popped up. The first showed a top-down photo of Amy looking up at Josh lovingly. The caption read, "She's really good at this." The second was a series of images of them in bed, their faces reflecting desire and happiness. Below was the caption, "What she didn't do for me." I apologize if this offends you, but I needed to remove all doubt. Why am I showing you these pictures? Because I filed for divorce. Many of her friends have asked if I'm sure about this decision, if it's a mistake, if we should see a counselor, if she's sorry, if it won't happen again, or if we should try to forget it. Her mother, whom I loved as my own, won't try to make me change my mind. Her father, whom I respect but never truly loved, will attempt to reason with me. I'm sorry for involving all of you in this situation. My strongest desire is for you to leave me alone. This is primarily between my wife and me. Well, not entirely. I didn't account for Josh. I owe an apology to his wife, Sunny. You didn't deserve to face this, or to your 2 children, who are, 8 and 5 now? Perhaps he'll change, and you can forgive him. It's your choice. I also apologize to his company and its senior management for involving them in the impending lawsuit. In the end, all their meetings occurred in their office. I believe the supply staff now knows why there's a couch in his office. Just a suggestion, if you're giving that couch to someone else, make sure it's thoroughly clean first. I may not be able to use these pictures, but my attorney can obtain statements from their CO workers. I highly doubt they'd take responsibility for the company. In any case, many people will have difficult times ahead. To sum it up, here's why I chose to handle it this way: to eliminate all uncertainties and not waste any more time. After all, a picture is worth 1,000 words, isn't it, Amy? Amy is about to be served with divorce papers, and it should happen any moment now. I'll try to start a new life without her. Amy, I'm sorry if I couldn't meet your needs. If, from the beginning, you had told me about your feelings for someone else and left, it would have hurt me. But I would have respected your decision. Instead, you chose to have your cake and eat it too. Well, the cake is gone. Amy, I'm pretty sure you'll regret it, or maybe not. Maybe you're relieved I found out, so you and your lover can live as you wish. It's over between us. I've moved out, taken what I needed, and everything else is yours. All communication will go through my lawyer, and I've made up my mind never to speak to you again. I don't want explanations. I don't want to know why. I don't want to hear about second chances, as I won't even consider them. Go ahead, Amy. Leave me be. The entire office was shaken when Amy let out a scream and fainted at her desk upon seeing a picture of Josh with a knife through it. CO workers rushed to help her, and soon the news spread. An email containing the shocking information had been discovered by one of the administrators. Work came to a near standstill. Josh, unaware of the commotion, was startled to see the HR director standing at the door. "Is it true?" the director asked without preamble. "Is what true?" Josh replied, baffled. The director entered the room and closed the door behind him with a slam. "Is it true that you and Amy have been having an affair here in the office?" Josh turned pale, and the director could see he might faint. It was a clear confirmation. "You've been a fool. Do you realize the damage you and Amy have caused? Many of our major clients are religious charities. How do you think they'd react to the news that 2 of our senior employees engaged in inappropriate conduct on company premises during working hours?" After a brief pause, the director continued, his breath heavy. "I've just come from a meeting with senior management. The CEO called and demanded verification. He's already received calls from the Archbishop, the president of a Baptist charity, and Rabbi Fredman. Things are not looking good." He paused again and stared at Josh. "I want you out of here in 15 minutes. You are suspended pending an investigation." "No, wait, make it half an hour. As we speak, Amy is being escorted out of the office, which you haven't seen yet. Check your email for the message her husband sent," the director added as he left. Josh's hands trembled as he hit the button. What had started as a casual secret affair was now causing chaos in their lives. He had hoped it would remain fun and hidden from everyone, but their feelings for each other had intensified, leading to promises that their spouses wouldn't discover their infidelity. He realized that Sunny, Josh's wife, must be in a desperate situation. "Oh my God, Sunny!" he exclaimed loudly and quickly dialed her number. To his surprise, she answered the call, seemingly calm. Maybe she hadn't seen the email yet. Her voice, cold and emotionless, broke the silence. "Is it true?" she asked. "Is what true, sweetheart?" Josh replied, aware that he had no other option. "Josh, you have one chance to tell me the truth, just one. If you deny it, and I catch you in a lie, our conversations will be handled by lawyers. So, is it true?" The walls were closing in on him and he loved her, but he had no choice. "I'm so sorry, honey." "Yes, it's true," he confessed, but she cut him off abruptly, her voice sharp and unyielding. "I'm packing 2 suitcases with your favorite things. They'll be in the garage. Come get them while I pick up the kids from school. I'd go myself, but at least one of us has to act like the responsible adult here, especially when there are kids involved. For now, I'll tell them you had to leave for a business trip. Understand one thing, if I decide not to attempt to salvage everything, you'll be the one explaining to our kids why Dad doesn't live here anymore. They won't understand now, but they will in a few years. I hope it doesn't push them away from you. I'm leaving. Please don't attempt to reach out to me. If I decide to, I'll initiate the contact." There was a moment of silence that seemed to stretch for an eternity, then came a piercing scream. "Damn you!" she yelled before abruptly ending the call, leaving him staring at his phone like a snake before he let it slip from his grip. Almost immediately, the phone began to ring. Glancing at the caller ID that displayed Amy, he answered hesitantly. For a minute, all he heard were the sounds of crying and sniffling. Then she spoke, her voice so hushed he could barely recognize it. Josh, what are we going to do? He's my life. We were planning to start a family next year. I can't bear to lose him. I can't." For the 20th time that day, he was overwhelmed with a profound sense of sadness. What have we done? He wondered aloud. "I feel the same way about Sunny, but honestly, Amy, I don't see a happy ending for either of us. If we truly loved each other, we might embrace our freedom and be together. However, we liked each other, yet we never intended to be together. You know, our careers are over, if not now, then very soon. Sunny has kicked me out, and I'm uncertain if we'll ever be together again. I'm genuinely sorry for Ben. Do you think that if I talk to him, explaining there was no love, it might help? Or I'm willing to do that." "No," she replied resolutely. "I believe the best thing for you right now is to keep as far away from us as possible. Every time he sees you, he'll remember what we did. He's never been violent, but he's never been hurt like this. I'll speak to you later only if I believe it's a good idea." She paused briefly before adding, "No, I don't think it's a good idea. All they need to do is discover that we're communicating, and that would undermine everything we're trying to rebuild. I'm sorry it has come to this, Amy. You know, I never meant to hurt you." "I feel the same way," she replied with a sigh. "I hope things work out with Sunny. I know how much you love her. I can't believe we were ever that foolish. Goodbye, Josh, and good luck with that." She hung up, leaving Josh alone with his thoughts. As promised, Ben never spoke to Amy again. He remained uncooperative, refusing negotiations and court-mandated counseling sessions. Instead, he opted to face a contempt charge, turning up at the office to be served with the charge by the jail. Confused police officers took his statement, and after no arrest warrant was issued, the judge expressed skepticism but sent him to jail over the following weekends, releasing him on Sunday nights so he could attend work. Amy eventually canceled the counseling sessions, admitting defeat. The divorce proceedings dragged on for nearly a year. Amy still harbored a flicker of hope that Ben would return, but when her mother saw an announcement of his upcoming wedding, she gave up hope. On Ben's wedding day, Amy, overwhelmed by emotions, got drunk for the first time in 2 years. While time might not completely heal all wounds, it made the pain more bearable. Eventually, Amy began dating again. She had 2 serious relationships that ended without her sharing her past, but she finally met a man who loved her enough to let the past remain behind and focus on the future. They married, and they were happy. Amy was cautious in her interactions with other men, particularly at work. Her colleagues jokingly referred to her as a nun because she rarely attended social events and kept her conversations with men strictly work-related. 2 years after her wedding, she unexpectedly ran into Ben. He had left town after reaching a confidential settlement with her former company to avoid a court case. He was back in town for his sister's 25th wedding anniversary celebration. Amy saw him sitting on a park bench by chance. Initially, she wasn't sure it was him. He appeared thinner and had some gray hair. She considered speaking to him to finally apologize for her actions, but changed her mind when a tall woman with fiery red hair approached, holding a boy around 2 years old and a girl of about 6 or 7 years. The girl had red curls like her mother's, and the boy had dark curls. The girl leaped into Ben's lap, and the woman took the younger one in her arms. Ben rose, holding the girl, kissed the woman, and left. Amy realized that she had caught a glimpse of the future that was supposed to be hers and wiped away her tears. She returned home to prepare her husband's favorite dinner. Josh and Sunny managed to reconcile after 15 months of separation. She insisted on counseling, both individually and as a couple, and they also established a rigorous prenuptial agreement. Josh apologized so much that Sunny eventually lost her patience and warned him that one more apology would lead to her departure. Josh transformed into a different person, rarely leaving Sunny's side, and he became a devoted family man. His new job paid less than his previous one, but he received raises and bonuses for his hard work. It took him 6 years to regain his footing, and Sunny continued to work to make ends meet. Despite their reconciliation, she refused to give up her job. She occasionally went out with colleagues for drinks or attended quarterly work seminars, and her independence bothered Josh, but she was secretly pleased by it. Their life was different from the past, but they were committed to building a better future for themselves and their children. One day, Josh realized that he and Amy had been living a bed life approximately 12 times, with an average duration of 30 to 45 minutes. Considering the longest estimate, it amounted to about 9 hours, a stark contrast to the years of suffering and the devastation of Amy's marriage. Was it worth it? Absolutely not.